Hey class, this week we're talking about perception, and I wanted to record a little video to go over some of the key concepts for the class to hopefully make things make a bit more sense. So, here you go. First off, everything begins and stops with perception. That's where all of our conflict really does begin. If you think about it, how many times have you been in a fight with somebody, especially a good friend, and you realize halfway through it at some point, oh, wait, I misunderstood what you said, or oh, I took this one word wrong, or I thought you were actually angry at me and you weren't. Think about how many times that's happened with people you love, and how many times that probably would have happened with people who you didn't even know if you had the time to actually break it all down. Most people aren't going through their day looking for fights. It's just most of us aren't. So if it starts with perception, then what's that mean for us? What's that mean for you? How can this be useful? So today, in my little video here, I'm going to talk a lot about myself, but I want you to put yourself in your own shoes, I suppose, and think about what this applies to you, how it applies to you. So first off, talking about perception, I got my glasses on. I'm going to use them as a prop here in a second, but I want to show you this visual aid because I think it kind of makes things make a bit more sense. So here we go. Understanding why we react to people and to things. Let me move myself right there. The core of emotion, our core of our emotions is filtered through and seen through this gray bubble. So our emotions are impacted, but they're impacted through our values and beliefs, our life experiences, our previous communications, and similar experiences that we've had with people, right? So let me unpack that. So let's start with beliefs and values. So if I think of myself, how I view the world, I have some beliefs and some values. I actively try to have as few beliefs as possible, but you'll understand that in a minute. That's because of my life journey up till now. So, like, for example, one of my beliefs, and I'm going to put this right on my glasses because it massively impacts how I see the world, is that I have an ethics of belief that I believe, here it goes. See, I think this helps me see better, but does it? I'm not sure. I believe that beliefs should only be held if there's evidence. That's my ethic of beliefs. Haven't thought this my whole life. It's where I think now, but it impacts how I see the world, right? What else? I definitely value respect, right? This changes how I interact with you guys. The fact that I value respect, I want you to respect me, and I want to show respect to you. So let me put that up here. I'm just going to put it off so I can at least see a little bit. I got this one. Where are we at? I needed bigger glasses for this exercise. Okay, boom, boom. There we go. And then my third value that I chose, because I think it's a huge one of mine, but it does seem totally out of place with the rest, is creativity. I highly value creativity, and I value these Post-it notes sticking on my glasses. All right. The metaphor is hopefully clear. The more beliefs and values you have, the more it changes how you see the world. It gets in the way, but it also filters how you see it. Immanuel Kant is a philosopher, is from long ago, but he argued that the way he put it was that we all see the world through rose-colored glasses. You might have heard that phrase before. That's who made it up. And he argued that there are structures that are inside our minds, inside us, that shade our perception of the world, and that it's impossible to get past those. We can practice, we can try, but we all see the world through some sort of filter. And I think he's right? So beliefs and values are one of them. We all see the world through our beliefs and values. Now imagine me with my Post-it notes stuck all over my glasses, and I come across and I meet you, and we're having a conversation, and I see the world this way, and you see the world however you see it. There's an excellent chance for us to have conflict purely based on incompatible Post-it notes that we have stuck to our faces, right? Right? So think about that. What about you? What beliefs and values do you have? How are those impacting how you see the world? How are those filtering how you see the world? Yeah, I honestly think that it's impossible to completely shed belief in something, because I've tried, but it's interesting to try. So the next thing I want to show you on this chart, this is the other one we're going to talk about today, is here, life experiences and how those impact how you react and how you emotionally react to things, right? So my life experiences, if I go through mine, I've been around for a minute, so I have a few Post-it notes that I've already gotten ready. Like, for example, first off, my age. I'm a Gen Xer, so if I put that up here, boom, that definitely filters how I see the world, right? I'm from one of the first generations where both parents worked. Mine didn't. Only my dad did. My mom stayed at home. But I had plenty of friends who were latchkey kids, and that's the term. If you came home and there was nobody there, but that was a new thing during my generation, and my generation's relationship with boomers is also really weird, right? Because we were raised by them. So for you guys, who knows? I'm not sure. You might be my generation. You might be any others, because this class is online, and I haven't actually met some of you in person yet, but we all have different relationships with the previous generations, and you probably have different opinions and ideas about Gen Xers as well. So that impacts my perception, and it's right there on my face. You can see it. It impacts your perception of me. These go both ways, right? That's why it's on my face. But I'm not just a Gen Xer. There's a lot to me. What else? I've got that I am, I used to be, we're talking about past life experiences, right? For a long time, I was a high school teacher. Bam. That definitely impacts how I see the world. A lot. It impacts how I teach. It impacts everything, really. I was a high school teacher for a good 10 years. So there we are. I can't have that not impact how I see the world, right? But I wasn't just a high school teacher. I have lots of things. This one, as far as past goes, I mentioned my perception of beliefs, my ideas that I think that beliefs should have some type of evidence. That's because I am also this. I am a post-Christian, which means, and what I mean when I say post-Christian, I went to Bible college and I became a missionary for a while, and I was very involved in my church and in my denomination for quite a while. But I'm not now, and I don't believe now. So I call myself a post-Christian. That massively also impacts how I see the world. It impacts things because I see them as a post-Christian, but also all of that background from my religious training is still there. It doesn't just go away. So I still know everything I knew, and I still think of the world in this way. This still changes how I see the world. To throw more into that, I'm also gay. So let's put that up here somewhere, wherever I have space, right? So, what's that mean? Well, combine this with this, you can imagine there's probably a history there, and there is. But you can combine that with lots of these. Being a gay Gen Xer? That was hard. A lot harder than things I think might be for some people today. But who knows? It's also personal, right? So if I keep going, I can slap more Post-it notes on. I've also got that I'm a male, because that's important, right? I interact with the world in a very male way, and I am seen as a male. I'm not trying to be anything but projecting a he, him pronoun, right? And so that does change how people interact with me and how I interact with other people, right? I'm just leaning into my gender binary and I'm fine with it. But I'm also that doesn't mean I'm not fine with everybody else's, of course, or whatever's happening, but it does mean that certain types of people might see me as something that I don't mean to be projecting into the world, right? But that's how it works. What else we got? I'm also white. Ooh, there's that. That totally changes as well how I interact with the world and how the world interacts with me in ways that I actually am positive I don't even know. A lot of ways I don't know. There's a lot of ways I do know. I've thought a lot about this. I'm a professor. But it also brings me that one. I am also a professor. So that also changes how I interact with the world and how people talk to me and how I see things. And then the last one I had was American. You can break this down even more, right? These are all co-cultures that I'm describing. I could be, American is definitely one. I was raised here. I have an American mindset. But you can go even further. I was raised in Oregon, and I definitely have a very Oregonian mindset, especially when it comes to things like nature, what to do with forests. I very much have an Oregonian mindset. That's who I am. That's where I came from. So all of these notes, I mean, you can imagine if I kept sticking them to my eyes, I mean, there's no way I could see you at the end. And that's the point. The point of this, one of the points of this, is that we see the world through the filter of everything we've been and everything we've thought, everything we've experienced. It changes things. It totally does. That also changes how those people interact with me. So we're talking about in-groups versus out-groups, right? This week. So a lot of these, like for example, American, boom. Say I have that stuck to my glasses here, and I walk into a bar in Ireland. Maybe I go to Ireland and I'm visiting there, and I walk into a bar. Being American, especially they hear my voice, because I've had this experience. I went to a bar in Ireland, and people immediately knew what I was from me talking, and were like, "Oh, whoa, you're American. That's fun. Let's have a good time with you and talk." And like, I got a lot of attention. It was a good night, but I wasn't part of the in group. I was like a a fun little celebrity for that night, and that was it. I never saw the people again. But imagine if I walked into that bar, especially in Ireland, and I noticed somebody else who was American, which did happen to me a lot when I lived in Ireland for a minute. What happened to me a lot there is you'd walk into a pub and you'd be talking to people, and if somebody would come up and be like, "Oh, wait, your accent, you're American," and then suddenly you have an in-group, right? And it matters there because you're in another country. So in-group versus out-group is our own perceptions through our filters of others, but also those people's filtered perceptions of us. If I sit around with a group of, where was that, high school teacher? I have that in here, right? If I hang out with other high school teachers, I am not part of their in-group anymore because I haven't been a high school teacher for a long time. I have some friends who are high school teachers, and that's great, but none of them see me as that. They see me as a professor, right? But the professors, I am in the in-group. If I walk into, like I went to a retreat this summer with professors, and immediately we're all fine and have a lot of camaraderie because we all know we're part of the same club. We're all part of the same in-group, right? So all of these things massively impact how I interact with the world and how the world interacts with me, my in-group and out-group experience. And the last thing I want to talk about, because it's interesting with all of these labels and co-cultures and whatnot, is intersectionality. Intersectionality is how parts of your personality intersect and what new thing is created because of those two intersections. So for example, when I'm putting all these post-it notes on my face, if I just put professor, boop, if that's all I was born and raised to be a professor, and now I am one, it would make this easy. You would probably have a very good idea of who I am and what I am, because I would be like I came off an assembly line, professor. But the interesting thing is that I'm not just a professor. I'm a professor who, let's throw in this one here, what I said earlier, values creativity. So I'm a professor who values creativity. The intersectionality of this creates classes where I want you to be creative, where I want you, especially when I teach other things with lots of writing in them, or when I teach speech, straight up speech class, I want to hear storytelling. I want to hear a lot of interesting vocalics with people's voices. I want drama because I value that. Right? That's an interesting intersectionality between these two things. There's other ones too, like the fact that I'm post-Christian and a professor. The intersectionality here is that, well, I've thought a lot about this. There's a lot of reasons why I am no longer Christian. It's not, I know a lot of people, at least in my personal life, assumed that it's because I'm gay. I'm gay, so therefore I'm not Christian anymore. You can be Christian and anything, I think. I think there's a church out there that'll say, sure, to literally anybody. So that's not it. I'm post-Christian for more complicated reasons, but that filters into my job as a professor, especially when I teach classes like that involve critical thinking, and I want students to reflect and talk about their own experiences. Like in this class, when you're going to talk about your own co-cultures, your own experience, some of you are going to talk about being religious and having a faith. That's wonderful. That's beautiful. You might see this and be like, oh, but he's going to attack me. I won't attack you, but I will push for there to be evidence for I will push. I don't demand it, of course, but I'll be like, oh, tell me more about that. Why do you believe that? The reason I push that is not because I want to challenge you. I do want to challenge you, but that's not the core reason. The core reason is I myself had this journey. And so when I see other people, I go, oh, maybe you're on the same journey as me or something similar, and maybe I can help, right? If we approach things like that, it's not so much I'm trying to change you or you're trying to change me. It's we can share with each other because we've all been through struggle. A lot of these notes represent struggle. A lot of them. So that's a part how intersectionality matters. And I could pick up these notes all day and talk interestingly about the intersectionality of them, right? Like being a Gen Xer and gay. I just mentioned that a minute ago, but boom. How do these combine? Well, my experience of gayness is very different than somebody who is a different generation than me. For example, I have an older cousin who had a horrible time coming out. So therefore I didn't for quite a while. I didn't come out until I was near 40. So I had a great time coming out, but I waited, and that's why. But that does mean I had a long closeted time period that I'm hoping people these days don't have to go through, because that's a different kind of misery. So, but that's interesting, right? The intersectionality of this. It's also super interesting when you put more than just two things together. When you say, what's it mean? If I just pick up random ones and say, okay, now what's it mean that I am a white male professor? What's the intersectionality there? Ooh, there's a lot, right? Being the fact that I picked up white and male, those are two pretty heavy privileged areas of my life. I feel that I'm gay, and that kind of gives me at least a little bit of a minority status in one area of my life, but only one. For most of it, I'm matching the primary culture, the mainstream culture, a lot. So I'm like, ooh. So then I have to unpack that. So being white and male and a professor, am I creating power imbalances? Are there problems that I'm not seeing because these have been normalized so much, right? All that stuff you got to think about. There's a lot to think about, and I find it interesting. Hopefully, it's more fun than anything else. So all of those that I just shared with you, all my notes on my glasses, those are me. Now I want to hear about you. And I want you to be as honest and open as you can be. Don't share anything, of course, that you don't want to. You're always the gatekeeper of your own divulgence of yourself. But I encourage you to be open, and I will be accepting of no matter what. So I just want to encourage also everybody in the room to also be accepting. But yeah, this should be a fun week. If you have any questions about any of this stuff, let me know, and I will help you out. And I can also meet with you one-on-one if you ever have a conversation you need to have. Have a good week. Good luck. I'll see you on the discussion board.